Right. Welcome, everyone. Hello, I am Stephanie Rao, Executive Director for the National Council on Public History. NCPH is a membership association dedicated to helping public historians put history to work in the world through community building, programs, and scholarship. Thank you for joining us today for Make Local History Shine as a National Historic Marker Weekend volunteer. It's been a pleasure for NCPH to partner with the Pomeroy Foundation on this webinar, and we are excited to hear from them today. Before we begin, I wanted to share a few housekeeping notes. This event has Zoom auto captions available, and to access those, you can hit the Show Captions button at the bottom of the Zoom toolbar. Feel free to use the chat area throughout the webinar to share where you're joining us from, if you have questions or comments to share with our presenters. And questions you can add either in the chat or in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll have plenty of time to get through those. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Steve Bodner of the Pomeroy Foundation for some words of welcome and to get us started today. Steve?
Thanks, Stephanie. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Bodner, and I head up marketing and communications for the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be with you. Before we dive in, I, of course, want to acknowledge the National Council on Public History, Stephanie, Megan Hillman, and commend all of you as members for your ongoing work and commitment to public history. We're grateful for the opportunity to spend some time with you this afternoon and share how having some fun during National Historic Marker Weekend and through the Pomeroy Foundation's Historical Marker Grant programs can benefit your community. Historical markers help communities celebrate, preserve, and share their history in visible and lasting ways. And Marker Weekend is an excellent opportunity to visit and take care of them. So all of us at the Pomeroy Foundation and our founder and trustee, Bill Pomeroy, are enthusiastic about even more people across the country volunteering for National Historic Marker Day, a weekend, 2026. So as we move through today's presentation, I want to invite you to think about which historical markers and plaques or other landmarks in your community need attention and care and can benefit from volunteers like you during National Historic Marker Weekend, taking place Friday, April 24th through Sunday, April 26th. And today I am joined by my colleague from the Pomeroy Marker team, Anastasia Sobchak. So I'll turn it over to Anastasia for an introduction.
Thanks, Steve. And thank you to the National Council for Public History for having us. Hi, everyone. I'm Anastasia. I'm a research historian here at the Pomeroy Foundation. I'm also the lead for the education program. I'm very excited to be here with you all today.
Thank you, Anna. So here's our roadmap for today's presentation. First, we'll start with introduction to Bill Pomeroy and the mission of the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. And then we'll take a closer look at historical markers and why they're so essential to the work that we do and the impact that they have in communities across the country. Then we'll introduce you to National Historic Marker Weekend, what it is, the benefits, and how you can have fun with local history as a volunteer. And then finally, we will share more information about our signature and partner marker grant programs. And these are options for you to consider when you're out there volunteering to think about what type of other markers might benefit your community. So, for those of you who are new to us, the William G. Pomeroy Foundation is a private philanthropic organization based in Syracuse, New York. We are founded by Bill Pomeroy, philanthropist, entrepreneur, and he brings together his two greatest passions: improving outcomes for blood cancer patients and helping communities to celebrate their history with fully funded historical markers. So Bill established the foundation when he was battling acute myeloid leukemia, AML, and his vision was to improve the probability of survival for others facing a similar situation, and providing funding for advancing donor matches and other life-saving treatments. At the same time, Bill is also a lifelong history enthusiast, and he wanted to ensure that communities have the opportunity to celebrate and preserve their local history. And that belief is really at the heart of our marker grant programs. So folks often ask us, well, why historical markers? So for Bill, that enthusiasm for history goes back to his childhood. Bill has fond memories of traveling with his dad, who was a salesman, and they'd stop and read roadside markers together. And those moments visiting markers and historic sites and learning about local history really made a lasting impression on Bill. So later, when Bill learned that in New York State, where we're based, that the state had stopped funding its marker program in the late 1930s, and that left communities to fundraise and pay for markers on their own. Bill saw that as an opportunity to fill that gap as a philanthropist. So he launched the Pomeroy Foundation's first historical marker grant program, which has been the springboard for all of our different historical marker grant programs and initiatives like National Historic Marker Weekend. So Bill saw just how significantly historical markers could benefit communities. Now I'd like to share a little bit about how markers benefit communities to get a real sense of how that ties into National Historic Marker Weekend. Markers are important in several key ways. Markers educate the public, enhance pride of place, encourage tourism. They also highlight untold stories and bring forward voices that might be overlooked. And historical markers spark curiosity and interest while ensuring that these stories are preserved for future generations. When a marker is installed, communities often hold dedication ceremonies, and these types of events really bring people together. Neighbors, local officials, partner organizations, volunteers, the media, and dedications really help to build visibility and strengthen community connections. And when it comes to Pomeroy markers specifically, I wanted to point out that accuracy is paramount. So every Pomeroy marker is vetted by professional historians like Anastasia on the Pomeroy marker team. And, that type of verification process is really our gold standard using primary source documentation. In addition, I also want to point out that all Pomeroy markers are fully funded, meaning that the grants cover the entire cost of a marker pole and shipping. So something to think about as we go through the rest of this presentation. So, with markers being such an integral and beneficial part of communities, it's important to give them regular care and maintenance so that they can last for future generations. And that is where National Historic Marker Weekend fits in. So each year at the end of April, dedicated volunteers in towns, cities, villages all across the country put their local history in the spotlight through Marker Weekend. Thousands of volunteers from over 40 states have participated over the years, and National Historic Marker Weekend is really an all volunteer service event that encourages people, individuals, groups of all sizes to get out, learn about their local history while preserving and cleaning and maintaining historical markers. We launched this event in 2021, initially as National Historic Marker Day. And that really grew into a major national event. So by 2022, the event received a designation to the National Day calendar. And then last year, we expanded the event to a full weekend, 3 days that gives communities even more time to participate. So today, you could say that thousands of volunteers from neighborhoods and schools and cultural institutions and civic groups all participate in celebration of service, history, and fun. We created National Historic Marker Weekend, a webpage on our website, wgpfoundation.org, which includes a volunteer kit that we'll talk about a little bit more in the slides ahead, as well as details about how you can plan a service project, really important with the planning aspect of it, and how you can sign up to volunteer. And so we'll tell you more about that in the slides ahead. So why is all this so important to communities? Well, according to the Historical Marker Database, hmdb.org, across the United States, there's over 200,000 historical markers and plaques. And markers are designed to be enduring resources for communities to tell their local history, whether that's about women's suffrage or the Revolutionary War or food history or transportation. But many of these markers have gone years without any proper maintenance or care. Some of the first markers were put up over a century ago. You could see them along roadsides and parks, and road salt, dust, pollen, harsh weather can really take a toll, especially over the decades if they're neglected. So preserving them really ensures that future generations can continue to learn from and enjoy these important shared community resources. So before you volunteer, you need to make a plan for your service project, and we've got information about that on our website. But here's some things to keep in mind. So first, confirm that you have permission to clean the marker, especially if it's on private property or at a cemetery. Talk to your municipality, historical society, cemetery association. And then you're also going to want to assess traffic safety, parking, access, things to think about when you're planning a service project to make sure that safety is top priority. And then you also want to think about the needs for maintenance and care of that specific marker. So evaluate its condition. Look for dirt, road salt, dust, moss, pollen. But if there's damage or corrosion or some sort of instability with the actual physical marker, you're going to want to avoid an aggressive cleaning and report any concerns to the property owner, the municipality, historical society, just to ensure that you're following the best practices for care and maintenance. Now, for routine cleaning on marker weekend or really any time, all you need is mild soap and water in a bucket, soft cloths and sponges, a non-metal brush like a toothbrush so you can clean between the letters, gloves, protective eyewear. Definitely avoid harsh chemicals or power washing. You don't want to blast off the paint on the markers. Many of them are clear coated, but again, you want to be more careful with and take a measured approach to cleaning. So gentle products is really the way to go with cleaning. Volunteers even bring flowers or mulch to help beautify their communities. So some groups will incorporate that into their service project, and others might volunteer to clean up cemeteries, memorial spaces as part of a bigger effort. And it's all in the name of preserving local history in all its forms. So, National Historic Marker Weekend is really more than just a cleaning project. It's about building community, bringing people together, having fun, and the benefits are really wide reaching. So, in this particular photo on this slide, one of the people who was cleaning the marker is actually dressed like a hot dog, which is actually kind of a fun costume. So people do wear t-shirts. Right now, the foundation is looking into perhaps an online merch shop where folks can order t-shirts or swag. So, more announcements on that. But, people really choose their own adventure when it comes to having fun with Marker Weekend. But it really is all about preserving the markers, elevating local history, building pride of place, and really doing some fun, meaningful work that can make a visible difference in your community. So one of the other things I wanted to point out is that we really want to recognize everyone's efforts who are making a difference in these communities. So once you clean a marker, make sure that you're taking photos, post them on social media, share them with your local news organizations. We've seen tons of media attention across the country over the years. Last year, we saw more than 50 news articles in different communities in different states. So it really is a great way to bring attention to local history. Take before and after photos so you could really see the difference. Action shots of volunteers cleaning, group photos, and other creative ideas are welcome. So all of this will help to document what you're doing and hopefully inspire others to participate and really amplify the idea of the importance of historical stewardship nationwide. So each year, the Pomeroy Foundation also hosts a photo challenge. So this ties back into the encouraging the photo taking aspect. And volunteers who post photos using the hashtags National Historic Marker Weekend and hashtag Pomeroy Foundation might be featured on our website, wgpfoundation.org, or our social media channels. On this slide, we have some photos from last year's participants. These are a couple of folks who made the Marker Weekend honor roll. On the left is a group of over 50 people who did a marker and grave cleaning project in Philadelphia. And on the right is a multi-year participant, the Oklahoma Historical Society, which covers historic sites statewide. So great engagement on both fronts. Uh, so to point you to resources on our website, how you learn more about volunteering registration is by going to the National Historic Marker Day page on our website. Click the Celebrate History menu item and then navigate down to Marker Weekend. Click that, and then you'll go to our Marker Weekend landing page. So when you're here, it's a one-stop shop for everything you need to know about volunteering. You'll get access to printable materials, promotional graphics, shareable content through the volunteer kit, which really will help to spread the word about this community service event. And it even includes a sample press release to share with your local media if you're doing a large group project, activities to engage students, a guide on how to clean a marker step by step. And registered volunteers also uh, get recognition on our Marker Weekend acknowledgements page. So this year we already have more than 400 volunteers signed up, and they're all listed on the acknowledgements page. So you definitely don't want to miss out. And then by signing up, you also get email reminders about more exciting news and announcements related to Marker Weekend. You'll get links to printable signage that you've seen some folks in these photos holding up so that you can, let people know that you've cleaned the marker and that your community service project's going on. So a lot of great resources all on our website. Volunteer registration is open right now at wgpfoundation.org. So you can register as an individual, family, a group, civic group, and it takes less than a minute to register. It's really easy. And this will really help to recognize your efforts and get more information. So anyone, anywhere can participate. If you like, you could use the QR code on this slide to get started. And we really can't wait to see communities all across the country come together for the sixth annual National Historic Marker Weekend to care for markers in their local communities. Um, and before I turn it over to Anastasia, I just have a couple more slides here about resources you might want to consider. So if you're not sure where to find a historical marker near you, we've made it easy. So the Pomeroy Foundation has an interactive marker map on our website that shows every single marker that the Pomeroy Foundation has funded, which is over 3,000 of them. And it's a great way to see what Pomeroy markers are in your local community. But you can also use the National Historic Marker Database, commonly known as hmdb.org. And that documents, as I had mentioned earlier, over 200,000 markers nationwide, and it's a very helpful resource for identifying markers near you. So with a little bit of searching, I think you will be surprised at how many markers are actually right around the corner from where you live and work. So, most importantly, with National Historic Marker Weekend, it's all about having fun. Bring your enthusiasm, bring your creativity, bring a camera, and whether you're cleaning a marker or organizing a large event, your efforts are super important. Every marker cleaned is a story preserved, and we look forward to you volunteering April 24th through Sunday, April 26th. So while you're out there caring for markers during National Historic Marker Weekend, you might discover something new, perhaps a historic person, place, or event in your community who's not yet celebrated or commemorated. And if you have an idea for a marker, we encourage you to explore one of our grant programs or the Pomeroy Education Program for educators and students. So, without further ado, I'm now pleased to turn it over to Anastasia from the Pomeroy Marker team, who's going to walk you through our grant programs and explain how they can help bring new markers and new stories to your community.
Thanks, Steve. So as you can see, National Historic Marker Weekend is a wonderful way to care for the markers that already exist in your community. But it's also a great reminder that there may be stories in your area that haven't yet been recognized. If this weekend inspires you to think about a person, place, event, or cultural tradition that deserves commemoration, like Steve mentioned, we do offer a variety of fully funded historical marker grant programs designed to help communities do that. So in this section, I'm going to briefly, quickly walk us through our signature programs that are listed here. And we're going to be posting some links in the chat, some more in the chat as we go along. So starting us off is our flagship program, New York State Historical. This is the one that started it all. This program commemorates people, places, events, and things prior to 100 years ago, and it's served as the model for our other programs. Since 2006, we've funded over 1,200 markers across New York, and we look forward to funding many more. So our National Register program provides bronze plaques or markers for properties and districts that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Because designation alone does not provide funding for this program, funding for signage, excuse me, this program helps fill that gap so that public properties and historic districts can commemorate their placement and share this achievement with their community. We do accept these on a rolling basis, and the applications only require the official designation and land permission letters. Historic transportation commemorates railroads, bridges, tunnels, canals, boats, and aviation that were used to transport goods and people prior to 1945, before the automobile and interstate highway reshaped travel. These markers show visitors how movement across the nation has evolved over time. Hungry for History celebrates traditional regional food dishes that were created prior to 50 years ago. You might want to think of Syracuse's salt potatoes, the Michigan hot dog in Plattsburgh, which we had a picture of earlier, or Burgoo Festival in Illinois. These food dishes and festivals have historical stories that often intersect with parks, markets, community gathering places, and they can be powerful expressions of local identity. So we also have our national program, Hometown Heritage, which commemorates historically significant people, places, and events that are older than 100 years. This is especially valuable in states that don't have a marker program or for topics that don't qualify elsewhere. This program's marker features the state's outline at the top, which reinforces the connection between regional history and identity. So we also have our Legends and Lore program. Legends and Lore celebrates folklore and cultural heritage. From folk tales to oral traditions, this program captures stories that may not appear in textbooks, but are still deeply meaningful to communities. These stories are often tied to real-life events, legendary figures, and customs that are passed down through generations. These markers invite imagination and storytelling and enrich visitors' experiences in outdoor spaces. So in addition to our 6 signature programs, we also partner with nonprofit organizations and governments to commemorate historic people, places, and events that align with their historic preservation and educational missions. These partnerships allow us to fund markers across broader networks, such as History Colorado, the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission, or the National Collaborative for Women's History Sites. One example of a partner program we have is Patriot Burials. This commemorates the final resting places of Revolutionary War patriots through our partnership with the Sons of the American Revolution. More than 200 markers have been funded so far across 10 states, many located in rural cemeteries and park-like settings that benefit from clear, respectful interpretation. For both individuals and communities, this program represents the opportunity to connect with their local or state SAR chapter in order to apply for the program. Another Partner program we have is Trails Across America. This is a new national partnership with the Rails to Trails Conservancy. This program provides fully funded markers along multi-use trails, such as greenways, canal paths, and former rail lines that were converted into recreational trails. Subjects are eligible through 1956, which marked the passage of the Interstate Highways Act and a turning point in transportation history. So once you think of your idea, what are the next steps? Our application process, I'll go through a little bit, just a broad overview of it here. First, you're going to want to review the program guidelines and criteria on our website closely. Second, you're going to want to confirm eligibility. Our grants are open to 501c3 organizations, nonprofit academic institutions, tribal nations, and government entities. You can find one of these to partner with if you're an individual. Third, you want to gather primary sources and obtain your land permission letter as early as possible. These are essential and mandatory for a successful application. We do encourage you to check out our website for full program requirements, guidelines, deadlines, and also many helpful how-to guides. And then I'll give a quick overview of the education program real quick. Another opportunity we have is the Pomeroy Education Program. Students conduct primary source research, prepare applications, and they can see their work realized as a permanent marker in their community. The program offers flexible resources that are aligned with academic timelines for both high school and higher education students. What sets the program apart is that student applications for our signature programs, they are accepted on a rolling basis, so year-round. Student-led is not limited to just classes either. Students have applied through libraries, scout troops, student governments, clubs, and other extracurricular groups. So something to keep in mind while you're out there cleaning markers, if you're doing it with your scout troop or with a club, think about the new historical stories you might want to research together and possibly apply for with your peers or if you're a teacher with your students. One of the resources we provide is a free high school curriculum, which was developed by a history teacher using the National Council for the Social Studies C3 framework and the New York State Seal of Civic Readiness Initiative. The lessons cover primary source research, source analysis, composing a marker inscription, historical context and narrative, planning a dedication ceremony, and last but not least, applying for the Pomeroy Foundation grant. These projects also provide an opportunity to involve the community in your classroom with visits from local historians and officials or special collections, museum, or historic preservation experts. And then our other resource that we offer is for instructors teaching in higher education. To make the process easier, we provide a starter kit with resources that help integrate the marker research and application into a syllabus. These materials are designed to encourage a higher level of critical analysis about historical narrative building and monument and marker scholarly discourse. These projects provide an excellent opportunity for networking with public historians and government officials, and some students have even presented their work at conferences. So thank you so much. I'm going to pass things back over to Steve.
Thank you, Anastasia. So, as we wrap up today, we hope you're feeling inspired about historical markers and not only about participating in National Historic Marker Weekend, but continuing to be stewards of the history in your own communities. So, whether you're out cleaning an existing marker, researching a new story to commemorate, or encouraging students and neighbors to get involved, your efforts help ensure that local history remains visible, valued, and preserved. So, thank you for taking the time to learn more with us today and for being part of this growing nationwide event to care for historical markers that tell our local stories. And now I'd like to open it up to all of you for Q&A. And we'd really like to hear your questions and thank you for your time and interest and excited to get started and provide more resources to all of you for National Historic Marker Weekend.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Steve and Anastasia, for this great presentation. It's been awesome to learn more about the Pomeroy Foundation's National Historic Marker Weekend. And now I'm really curious to see if anyone can top the hot dog costume for a sort of themed opportunity. Um, as a reminder to everyone in the audience today, you can add your questions to the Q&A feature in Zoom, or you can just pop them right into the chat, and we have a good amount of time to sort of get through those. I thought I'd start with a question to get a sense from you, Steve and Anastasia, of some of the kind of creative ways that you've seen public history organizations, maybe like museums or county historical societies, get involved sort of in a group way in National Historic Marker Weekend.
Yeah, that's such a great question. And we've really seen so many different types of ways to do National Historic Marker Weekend in fun, creative ways. So here are just a few examples. We've seen folks do scavenger hunts. We've seen folks do challenges where they compete to clean the most number of markers. We've seen people do team names and themes and do their own t-shirts. We've seen a lot of youth engagement around different troops that will clean markers as part of other service projects. We've seen an increasing number of groups involved with cemetery preservation be involved with National Historic Marker Weekend and cleaning plaques and other types of markers that are at the cemeteries, and then going and doing actual grave cleaning projects. And that's sort of an adjacent type of cleanup and preservation skill set that's very specific. So I encourage anyone who's doing something like that to talk to experts uh, around the care and proper maintenance of cemeteries and graveyards and burial sites, and talk to your local cemetery association before you go and do anything like that. But we have seen that start to merge into bigger cleanup events. We've seen folks also do different types of fun social media engagement where they'll maybe do some sort of kind of play on words related to a theme of a marker. So there's really a lot of different interesting ways. One of the biggest ways overall is youth engagement. So just getting young people together, whether it's students, local group that's youth oriented, something like that. We're just seeing a ton of engagement in that way. And that's really connecting the dot to getting younger people interested in local history in a way that they're actually seeing a difference in real time, right? A cleanup effort, think Earth Day kind of thing. So it really all comes full circle when you get to see that happen in real time.
Thank you so much. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you see school groups engage with Marker Weekend, and if you have thoughts on sort of appropriate age ranges or kind of connections for classroom teachers or even parent volunteers who are involved in school groups to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the volunteer kit, the downloadable volunteer kit that we have on the Marker Weekend webpage, that includes a suite of materials that have planning your service project, how to clean a marker, a press release, and it also has a student activities sheet as well as lesson plans. And so those lesson plans are for age groups everywhere from elementary school all the way through high school, and they're classroom projects where students write their own marker inscriptions and think about their local history. And it takes you step by step through that really easy, light activity to get interested in historical markers in the classroom. And then there's some other activities and ideas like writing a letter to your local historical society to thank them for the work that they're doing, or a local public historian and writing a letter to thank them for the work that they're doing. And then just bridging that kind of engagement from the classroom right out into doing a volunteer project. Now, if a school or a local group wants to do a volunteer project, definitely talk to your administrators, talk to your principal, whoever is able to green light a historical marker cleaning project during the weekend or the day or however that might work for your actual local school district. And what we've seen is that there's actually markers and plaques right at schools. So sometimes they're able to just go out on the school grounds and just do a light cleaning of maybe a plaque on a boulder or a historical marker if your school has a bit of deeper history. But there's definitely ways to engage at from the classroom to really right on site and have it be kind of a light way of getting involved and volunteering from a school group perspective.
That's wonderful. Um, we had a question from Megan in the chat who says, perhaps I missed it on one of the slides, but is there a hashtag that folks who participate in Marker Weekend can use to share photos with y'all?
Yes, absolutely. So use hashtag National Historic Marker Weekend. You could use hashtag Pomeroy Foundation. You could tag or mention us, our accounts on social media too, so that it comes into our notifications. You could also do hashtag National Historic Marker Day. So the event originally began as National Historic Marker Day. Now it's weekend. So some folks still really like to celebrate National Historic Marker Day, the first Friday of the 3-day event. So any and all of those hashtags are a great way to unify around a hashtag online or mention us and tag us, and we'll get those notifications. And then we're monitoring social media all weekend long and engaging with posts and saying thank you for volunteering and aggregating photos and doing photo galleries of people who are participating and giving shout outs. So, the more you engage, the more you post and put it on our radar, the more we want to be able to, share that in a photo gallery and, do the photo challenge again this year. So we'll have some announcements around what those categories will be. So, yeah, use those hashtags, mention us, and we'll reciprocate.
Awesome. I'd love to hear from both of you if you have, as you've been privy to like watching people's social media feeds on National Historic Marker Weekend, is there a favorite kind of approach to a service project or a cleaning that you've seen in your years?
Yes. So over the years, now we're going into our sixth annual event. We've seen people start out with maybe like before and after photos. Then we started to see more people doing like full photo galleries, showing their whole process while they're cleaning markers, going to different markers and putting that together in a photo gallery. But in recent years, we've seen a lot of video content where people will narrate their experience and post it on Reels or post a video of it or share it on YouTube and really just kind of talk about the history behind the site or the location while they clean the marker. Think something analogous to those kind of gravestone cleaning videos that you might see that does like a full time lapse with a narrative of like who the person was. And their legacy. And so, yeah, the video content has really taken off in recent years. And so, looking forward to seeing what creative ideas folks have this year.
And then I know you said you wanted to hear from both of us, but actually, this is my first National Historic Marker Weekend. I joined the Pomeroy Foundation last May, so just after last year's. So I've heard a ton from Steve and, seen a lot of the engagement that he has shared. But this will be my first chance to engage with it and participate. So I'm very excited to see what everyone comes up with and how they engage.
Well, I can't wait to hear at the end of April, Anastasia, what what your favorite experience was. Kind of a quick nuts and bolts question. Can volunteers for National Historic Marker Weekend volunteer to clean any historical markers in their community, or is it really only designed for Pomeroy Foundation markers?
Oh, that is a really great question. So National Historic Marker Weekend is open to any and all volunteers and markers anywhere in any community. And so it'll really come down to maybe some logistics and permission. And so if there's markers in your community that are not Pomeroy markers and you want to go and clean them and volunteer, I mean, you're more than welcome to do that. double check with your municipality, the property owner, historical society to see who might actually have, own that particular marker or maintain those particular grounds, just to make sure that you've got that permission. Check for safety in terms of traffic, parking, those kinds of things. But National Historic Marker Weekend is about all types of markers, historic markers, roadside markers, plaques. We've seen people do clean interpretive signage on trails, plaques on landmarks, all sorts of ideas and ways that you can approach National Historic Marker Weekend. And the historical marker database beyond our historical marker map, which shows all of the Pomeroy funded markers, the historical marker database is a great resource that, of course, with over 200,000 listings in the United States, there's plenty, thousands in every single state to choose from. So, check that out. Talk to the property owner municipality and plan your project accordingly.
Thank you. We have a comment and a question in the chat from Christine Darrow, who writes, my idea is to have my camera crew film me cleaning signs while the museum curator tells specific stories behind the signs. Would this work?
Yes, absolutely. That sounds fantastic. I know, as an example from last year, there was a group in New Orleans that did something very similar. So they had maybe a group of a few folks from their organization go and clean a historical marker, maybe near or at their actual facilities location. And one of them went around with a mic and was interviewing people and asking them to talk about the history. And some of the historians on their team, were able to speak to that. So, you could kind of do it as a person on the street interview style. You could do a narrative style. You could document the whole thing and do a narrative over it. It's really whatever kind of video format and style works for you. Yeah, I encourage you to share the story in the way that works best for you, especially in the video format.
Thank you. Our next question from Megan is, if folks want to do organized repainting efforts on markers, do you give guidance on the kind of paint to look for to achieve the best results?
So it will all depend on the exact type of marker. So we're based in New York State, so a lot of the older markers that predate the Pomeroy Foundation markers might have been put up by the original New York State program in the 1920s and 30s. So we're pushing over 100 years on those. And in our state, the Office of State History has some guidelines on how to repaint those particular markers. It has some colorways and color paint tips. It has some care for how to maybe sandblast and repaint. So it might really all come down to depending on what type of marker it is. But we've got our contact information on this slide, info@wgpfoundation.org. So when you do identify a marker that you might want to clean and possibly refurbish, you could certainly reach out to us and let us know what it is, and maybe we could point you in the right direction. The other thing that we've seen over the years is talking to a local public works department, DPW, and oftentimes they are familiar with some of the roadside signage and traffic signs around your community, and they might be able to provide insights of how those types of signs have been refurbished in the past and could provide some guidance there. Those types of refurbish and repainting projects are a little bit more complicated in depth. We see it every year that people do participate in that. So just make sure you're talking to the right folks for permission and access to those markers. But if you have questions, certainly just email us and hopefully we could send you in the right direction.
And then sorry, I wanted to tack on to add to that. We do once in a while fund replacement markers. If you find a marker that, has information that is not, it's much older and it is maybe not fully accurate, or it has degraded too far where, repainting might not cut it. You can you still have to apply through our programs, but we do often, not often, once in a while, we fund replacement markers for markers that have degraded or just, the paint's really peeling, it's rusting. So that's also an option.
Thank you.
Great tip. That's true.
Yeah.
That's a great add-on.
And I think at least where NCPH is based in Indiana, and I believe that in our state, the historical bureau that managed the marker program also had a mechanism to collect feedback on the condition of markers. Is that something that you've seen in other states where folks who are volunteering maybe can have a chance to report something that, might need to be addressed in a deeper way?
Absolutely. So, especially when it comes to various state marker programs like the one you referenced in Indiana, um, the state agency or group that's involved with putting up those markers or tracking them or recording them, there are a lot of mechanisms for being able to report the status of a marker. So check out their website, search their any particular agency's website, see if they've got some information about what their historical marker programs are like and what types of ways you could provide feedback. And even if they don't have a way to report online or track it, I know from just over the years of talking to so many of these different marker programs across the nation that, folks who are involved with maintaining them, putting up new markers would certainly welcome that type of feedback or reporting about the status of a particular marker. In some instances, we'll hear about, as Anastasia and I have talked about, maybe there's some deterioration and maybe it needs to be replaced. Maybe one is missing. You go to the historical marker database and then you go out on site and you see that it's not there, but maybe it was, knocked over by a snowplow and now the DPW has it. So definitely depending on what the marker is and who was involved with putting it up, if there's some sort of damage or status that you want to report on, definitely reach out to those groups, and I'm sure that they would welcome to hear about the status.
Great, thank you. When we have a couple of more questions that have already been submitted to get through, but if folks have others, feel free to put those in the chat or the Q&A feature. When is the best time for folks to start planning for Historic Marker Weekend? And if during the course of volunteering, they are inspired for an idea for a new marker, what's the best timing also to think about those grant cycles and how to take advantage of the foundation's marker grant funding programs?
That's a great question, and I'll kick it off, and then I'll turn it over to Anastasia for more. But start planning now. We're only about exactly 2 months out, so if you start by even browsing our interactive marker map and looking for some markers in your area, or the next time you're out and about in the community and you notice one, take note of that, and then determine who the right group or entity is to reach out to, whether that's a historical society, the municipality. Often at the bottom of a marker, it'll give a credit line. So there'll be some folks that you can identify as to who to reach out to. So start planning now. We have the volunteer kit on our website that gives guidance on how to plan a service project, step-by-step guide on how to clean a marker. So, kind of getting together those supplies. And often it's stuff that people have around the house or in a supply closet at a office or something like that. And then in terms of, planning for possibly applying for a new marker, if you have an idea like that, I'll turn that over to Anastasia because we've got some grant rounds coming up.
Yes, so almost all of our programs have 2 grant rounds per year. The dates for those are all going to be listed on our website. We do have a couple opening up over the next couple months. Here at the end of February, Patriot Burials opens up, and then in March we have a couple of others opening. As far as the timeline goes for that, we do encourage you to start particularly the land permission letter early. that can be a little bit unpredictable and sometimes take a little longer than expected, especially if it has to go through, a municipality and, get city council approval, things like that. So that's one part to start early. The other thing is sources. Sometimes the primary sources will have to come from, you might need to send in a request to like a state archive or a special collection, and they need some time to get that, find it, track it down for you and find it. So both of those you want to start early. And then the application process itself can take anywhere between, we sometimes we have a very high volume of applications. It can take up to 3 months to be evaluated and approved. And then and that's the high end. And then after that, once you've been approved and it's being fabricated, it can take the foundry takes anywhere between 12 to 16 weeks to fabricate the marker itself and ship it to you. So that's the approximate timeline that we tell people. But it's always good to start earlier rather than later and be prepared. But again, all our grant round deadlines can be found on our website.
Thank you. I have one more question, and then I'm happy to kind of open it up, Steve and Anastasia, if there's anything that, in the course of this conversation, you were like, oh, we should have mentioned this. We can have some time for that. The last question is, if someone wants to get involved in National Historic Marker Weekend, but maybe they don't have capacity to sort of lead a project, is there a way that they can connect with service projects that might already be in the process of being organized?
Yes, actually, a great way to do that is we update our volunteer acknowledgements page on a weekly basis, all the way up through National Historic Marker Weekend. And so when you visit that page, it lists team names and community locations. So you could see, for example, it'll say like Syracuse, New York, or Indianapolis, Indiana. And so if you're in one of those communities, you could just do a quick find search and see if there is a group that is already participating in your area. And so that's the best way to do it. And we list everybody who registers, their team name or their individual name, and then their location and state. And so if you're looking for other folks in your state to connect with, check it out on the acknowledgements page on the Marker Weekend section of our website.
Fantastic. Any closing thoughts you want to make sure that we get to, Steve or Anastasia?
Yes, so I'll wrap it up with National Historic Marker Weekend is really all about having fun, building community, taking an interest in local history, and by doing a service project and going out and cleaning a historical marker or plaque, you're really bringing attention to local history while beautifying your community. So it's a great opportunity and a win-win across the board. As I had mentioned earlier, if you register, we have more exciting announcements that we're going to be sharing in the weeks ahead. So, and we'll also share that out on social media too. So, we'll announce what some of the categories are for the photo challenge. I had mentioned the possibility of a merch shop where people would be able to get National Historic Marker Weekend swag. We've got downloadable signage and name tags that we'll send out as a link, and you could print them out. And there was a couple of slides that people were holding the signs that they printed out, and you could just put your team name on there, or you could leave one of the signs at the marker saying this marker was cleaned by team group name. So there's a lot of fun with that, just to continue to amplify and bring attention to local history. But it's really a good time. It's 3 days, so just volunteer at your leisure at the time that works best for you and your friends, families, neighbors, and we'll engage with your content online and just look forward to everybody everywhere getting involved with local history.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. As a reminder for everyone on today, we will share out the link to the recording for this presentation and all of the links that were shared in the chat towards the end of this week. And I just want to thank once again Steve and Anastasia for sharing this incredible opportunity with us and sort of taking us behind the scenes on how to get involved in National Historic Marker Weekend. Thank you for everyone who joined us today. And I hope that we'll see some of you for future NCPH virtual events. We shared a link for what we have coming up in the chat. So thank you all so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.